Hello everyone and welcome back to the Football Chuggu Podcast. My name is Thomas Durning and today I am joined by my co-host Pearse McLaughlin. Hello Pearse.
Hello, how you doing?
I'm doing well. On today's podcast, we'll be reacting to this week's Champions League matches, previewing this week's upcoming Europa League and Conference League matches, and Pearse will be giving a rundown of all the latest Asian football news. So coming up next, we'll be reacting to this week's Champions League matches. So on Tuesday, the 19th of September, and Wednesday, the 20th of September, this first round of Champions League matches was played. So I'll quickly go through all the matches that were played. So in Group A, the results were Galatasaray 2, Copenhagen 2, Bayern Munich 4, Man United 3. In Group B, it was Arsenal 4, PSV 0, and Sevilla 1, Lens 1. In Group C, it was Real Madrid 1, Union Berlin 0, Braga 1, Napoli 2. In Group D, it was Benfica 0, RB Salzburg 2, Real Sociedad 1, Inter Milan 1. In Group E, it was Feyenoord 2, Celtic 0, Lazio 1, Atletico Madrid 1. In Group F, it was AC Milan 0, Newcastle United 0, PSG 2, Borussia Dortmund 0. In Group G, it was Young Boys 1, RB Leipzig 3, Man City 3, Red Star Belgrade 1. In Group H, it was Barcelona 5, Royal Antwerp 0, and Shakhtar Donetsk 1, Porto 3. So Pearse, how do you feel about the Champions League returning, and which match or matches did you watch?
Yeah, well, it's always exciting time when the competitive action of Europe starts because you get to see the best teams against each other, and also some minnows that kind of defy odds to even make it to the group stage that you probably sometimes never heard of, but you get to see them on the European stage. And obviously most of the European superpowers, in terms of like your Bayern Munich, your Real Madrid, your Barcelonas, they never really hit top gear into the first or second game. So you might catch them off guard, but no, there was some brilliant fixtures played on Tuesday and Wednesday. And I think as a Scottish football fan, I think the one that kind of stood out was the final 2 Celtic 0. And obviously, the fact that Celtic went down to 9 men and lost 2-0 away from home was kind of a shock, because I don't think Feyenoord in that match played that great. But you can't be doing some of the stupid decisions that the players kind of dive into tackles or pulling back, because the officials in Europe are a lot more strict. And obviously, then you just get found out at this level if you don't take your chances or you don't kind of make the right decision at certain moments. And obviously, I think you've got to come to the first goal. The wall wasn't really positioned that great, and you kind of have to question a bit of Joe Hart in terms of his movement of his feet. But he is getting to the twilight age of his years, but he did pull off a tremendous penalty save. But I do feel as if it's not a horrible result. It could have been a lot worse considering it went down to 9 men, 25 minutes to play. It could have been 3, 4, 5. A lot of teams would have capitulated. So a lot more to play. Still 5 games left. And I think the other fixture that stood out to me was, so the other fixture was on Wednesday, and that was at Allianz Arena, where Bayern Munich won the match 4-3 against Manchester United. I felt for probably the opening 10-15 minutes that Manchester United started pretty well. It kind of took the opening goal to kind of kickstart Bayern Munich into life. And it was an absolute howler by Andre Onana, and I think his night, which went from bad to worse. And I think obviously Bayern Munich were 4-1 up at one point, but it just shows you they come back into it at the end. But I do think it shows you the frailties of Bayern Munich's defence as well as their frightening attack. But I think since it was opening game, it will come a time when Manchester United just keep struggling. I think they've won 2 of the opening 6 fixtures in terms of like the league and obviously now Champions League. And I do think that Erik ten Hag is obviously, his side is kind of hampered by injuries, but I think he's starting to get under some criticism. And obviously, if you're not winning matches at Manchester United, then you could be well and truly out the door. Because you don't get time at massive clubs like Manchester United. And David Moyes found that out after replacing Sir Alex, and obviously Louis van Gaal, Jose Mourinho, some of the best managers around, have kind of found it hard to come by with success at Manchester United. And I do think it was obviously nice to see Harry Kane scoring in his English opposition. But I do think they'll become stronger as the weeks progress.
Yep. Obviously great to see the Champions League returning this week. It's always good to see. Probably the best club competition in the world. So really good for that to return. I'm the same as you. So the two matches, I managed to watch two matches, which was the Feyenoord Celtic match and the Man U Bayern Munich match. So obviously just briefly touching on the Celtic Feyenoord match, obviously Feyenoord ran out 2-0 winners. I think from a Celtic point of view, it's pretty disappointing for them, because from watching the game, I felt for 60 minutes in that match, Celtic were right in it. Obviously they lost a goal right on half time, which they'll be really disappointed about. And then after 60 minutes, Celtic managed to get two red cards, which totally took the game away from them. I mean, you're never going to win a match with 9 men. I mean, it's going to probably a miracle for that to happen. So probably a little bit of an experience there from Celtic. There was a lot of young players playing in that team. The two red cards came from two new Celtic signings from this summer who are both very young. And that was both their first Champions League matches. So they'll have a lot to learn from that. So yeah, a really disappointing start for Celtic. Because as you said as well, I don't think Feyenoord played their best. They've been on tip-top form recently. Getting into that match, they'd scored 17 goals in 3 games. And I felt Celtic kind of matched them for quite a lot of that match until obviously the red cards happened. So, yeah, pretty disappointing start from Celtic in the Champions League. And in the Bayern Munich Man United match, obviously that ended 4-3. It was a brilliant match to watch, lots of goals. I felt for Man United, in Man United's case, I felt that at the moment, defensively, they're not strong enough at the moment. But going forward, I don't think they have a problem. They are capable of finding the back of the net, but it's defensively that they're letting in too many goals at the moment. And if you're not strong enough in defence against a Bayern Munich attack, which could arguably be the best in the world, then you're going to have a lot of problems. Obviously, Onana's going to have, that'd be disappointing for him. The first goal, he knows. I think he even admitted it after the game that he should have done better. So no, that was a really good match to watch, the Bayern Munich Man United match. But I just wanted to briefly touch on the Lazio Atletico Madrid game, for the fact that the Lazio goalkeeper scored in the last minute, which is something you don't see every week. So that was really good. That was really good to see. Quite different, and obviously Arsenal's return to the Champions League after I think it's 6-7 years, and they ran out comfortable 4-0 winners against PSV, which is a great start for them. But there was tons of other matches, but it's really good to see the Champions League returning. I just wanted to ask briefly, Pearse, do you think it's too early to judge which teams will progress from their groups?
Yeah, I think it's far too early. Some players are just still getting up to speed, and obviously we're just back after international break, the first international break of the season. So, and obviously, as you see, like for example, teams like Bayern Munich, you see their defence isn't kind of up to scratch, and they're still trying to get the new transitions with like Kane, Sané, Gnabry, Musiala, Thomas Müller. Like you see, kind of the things they're not coming off fluidly, but they will as the weeks progress. And you're looking at Barcelona as well; they look really sharp, but when they come to stronger opposition, that's when they're really tested. And I do think, obviously, when a lot of teams have the full contingency, you will see the best out of them. But I think you won't see the best, or you won't see the kind of finishes of the group until maybe match day 4. I think that's when the business ends, because teams start to really show what they're made of, and they start to get a real fluency to the game. So I think it's far too early to see, but it's always exciting to see it back up and running again.
Yeah, I agree. It is far too easy to it's far too hard, to figure out who's going to progress from each group. I mean, if I was to make a kind of thinking in my head, Group H, which includes Barca, Shakhtar Donetsk, Porto, and Royal Antwerp. I mean, I would say Barca are red hot favourites in that group. Obviously they ran out 5-0 winners in their first match. There is a couple of groups that you look at and you go, I think they'll run out comfortable winners and safely go through to the last 16. But it's far too early. Match day ones, that you can't really read too much. So it is far too early, but we'll talk about the Champions League more once it comes back in the next week or so. So we will now move on to previewing the Europa League and Conference League matches. So on Thursday, the 21st of September, the first round of Europa League and Conference League matches will be played. So there is a lot of matches getting played. So we'll be here a while if I was to read them all. So I'll just tell you the matches that teams from England and Scotland will be playing, and they include Liga Warsaw versus Aston Villa, Eintracht Frankfurt versus Aberdeen, LASK versus Liverpool, West Ham United versus TSC Baka Topola, Brighton versus AEK Athens, and Rangers versus Real Betis. So Pearse, which match from these lists of fixtures are you looking forward to the most?
Well, obviously the Scottish contingency yet again. I'm looking forward to seeing Aberdeen away to Frankfurt in Germany. I think for the fans, it will be an absolute amazing trip to go and watch your side play in European football like for the first time in I don't know how long in terms of group stage football. And obviously Frankfurt's a top class opposition. They won the Europa League only a couple of seasons back against Rangers. So they're no doubt they're no mugs. They're a great European side. So it'll be a really tough task for them. But I think for the fans, it'll be an unbelievable experience. But let's just hope it's not too much of a high scoring game for Aberdeen, because they've struggled domestically at the start of the season under Barry Robson. And just kind of hope they can pick up some form domestically at the weekend as well, and it doesn't dent their confidence even further. And in terms of Rangers, Real Betis, I think Rangers played well at the weekend. And obviously this is a real test, because Real Betis is a side that Scottish football fans know very well, because they played was it Celtic in Europa League not so long ago, and they were both high scoring games. So they prove that they can outscore opposition, but they can also concede quite a lot. They're quite suspect at the back, and at the start of their season they've been chopping and changing with their goalkeepers, with 40-year-old Claudio Bravo and Portuguese goalkeeper Rui Silva. But I'm really excited to see 5 times Champions League winner Real Betis, Isco back in action for Real Betis. He's opening 3 La Liga games after nearly a year of football out. You get 3 Man in a Match awards, a goal and 2 assists as well. So I think it'll lovely to see his twinkle toes at Ibrox, and it's players of that calibre to play in Scotland is just a joy to behold. And in terms of that game, I think it will be quite high scoring, but it could go either way. With Rangers' home advantage, you'd predict maybe a narrow victory, but that game is too tight to call. But no, that is the game that's kind of exciting me the most. And obviously, I think Brighton in Europe for the very first time against AEK Athens, that is an exciting sight to see under De Zerbi. I think they can go very far, and I think they're probably one of the favourites to go on and probably lift the Europa League at the first time of asking, because the side that they've built, the side that they've assembled is just, and the football they play is just so exciting to watch. And I expect them to score quite a lot of goals as AEK Athens. I don't see another win on that tie, and I think Brighton will start off really well in the campaign in the Europa League.
Yep. So obviously, from these list of fixtures, you just touched on it. The one that stands out really to me is, from a Scottish football fan point of view, the Aberdeen versus Eintracht Frankfurt match. Obviously, Aberdeen going over to Germany tonight to play Frankfurt. It would be the massive shock if Aberdeen managed to pull a result out of that. Managed to pull a result out, but it's going to be really, really difficult for them. Frankfurt won the Europa League 2 years ago. Obviously they're not in it this year. But it's going to. I mean, Eintracht Frankfurt stadiums. It's a massive stadium. They've got really hostile fans. It's going to be a really, really, really tough match for Aberdeen. As you've said, they're in quite a difficult moment. They've not started the league well at all. They're kind of really struggling in terms of, I think, of an identity at the moment. I don't think many fans kind of know where Aberdeen are going in terms of their style of play. So that's going to be a tough night for them. I think a lot of the players for Aberdeen are going to learn a lot about themselves. I think against Eintracht Frankfurt, because this is going to be at the top level for them. I mean, I don't want to sit there and say that Aberdeen are going to get really, really badly beaten. But if Aberdeen do get beat, and they only get beat by a narrow margin, I think they'll be disappointed to lose, but I think they'd be happy with that. I don't think they want to go there and I don't think they want to go and they come back and they've been beaten by 5-6 goals. I mean, that'll do nothing for them. So that's going to be a really, really tough match for them. But for Aberdeen fans, it's so exciting. A really exciting match for them. The other match as well that stands out to me is the Brighton match, as you were saying. Brighton's first time in the European competition. Brighton they're just a joy to watch. At the weekend, they beat Man United at Old Trafford quite easily, to be honest. And Brighton didn't even have the best team out in that day. So, for Brighton fans, it must be so exciting at the moment. To see their team in Europe, and I think they'll be quietly confident that they could go really far in the competition. They've got a really, really good manager, a really good team. There's so many players in that team that you could point out that are really, really good players. And I think they'll be a force to be reckoned with. I really do. I think they're going to be a tough team to beat. Obviously Liverpool against LASK, it's pretty strange to see Liverpool in the Europa League. They're so used to playing in Champions League recently. Playing in finals, won the Champions League not that long ago. They're going to be clear favourites to win Europa League. With the strength of squad they've got, the attacking players that they've got, and they've started really well in the league. They're going to be a pretty tough team to beat in the Europa League, and I think their fans will be expecting them to win this competition as a whole. So pretty strange to see them in Europa League. And just lastly, I just want to touch on the Rangers Real Betis match. A really good match to start off. The Europa League. Two teams that are probably similar in ability. Rangers are kind of going through a little bit of a sticky patch at the moment. A lot of eyes on Michael Beale. To see where I can come through this kind of disappointing last few results I've had. And Real Betis, they've always been a strong side in the Liga. You were saying that they do have an issue at goalkeeping, the goalkeeper situation at the moment. So that's a really exciting match to watch. And yeah, it's from all these lists of fixtures that they do look really exciting. I just want to ask you, Pearse, do you enjoy watching the Europa League and the Conference League?
Yeah, I do. Because like you see sides that you probably wouldn't normally watch. And you're looking now, like you've seen last season, Roma won the Conference League, and that was the very first time of its installation in the European game. And I do think if you look at the Conference League, some of the sides are really big European sides as well as Europa League. You look at, like you say, you're saying Liverpool, the Champions League winners literally in 2020. So you get massive sides dropping down, and then you'll get bigger sides dropping out of the Champions League and who finish third in their group as well. So no, I think that you get some tasty ties, and some of the football's nice to watch as well. And you do get some bigger sides that kind of feel like a second string side, like most of the English sides that usually do that to try cope with the balance of European and domestic football. But no doubt there's some talented opposition and some really interesting fixtures, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, same with me. I'll be honest with you. I wasn't a massive fan of the Europa League, and I wasn't a massive fan when the Conference League first started. But what I've noticed, I think, the last couple of years is that, I think the Europa League especially has got really, really stronger. As you've said, Liverpool, Villarreal, who are, they've won the Europa League quite a few times. Roma are in it, for example, Bayer Leverkusen, who are a really top side. Teams like Ajax as well. So lots of really strong teams in the Europa League this season. And there's lots of really exciting matches to watch in Europa League. And same in the Conference League as well. What I like about the Conference League is the fact that it gives these kind of so-called smaller teams who are not the biggest teams in the world the chance to compete in Europe and go around Europe and compete. Obviously, we're just talking about Aberdeen. 40 years ago, they were a massive European side. They got to the final in the European Super Cup, I think it was, against Real Madrid. Obviously, as football's progressed, they've kind of fallen away. But for Aberdeen, for example, to get back into European football, it's really exciting.
Yeah. I'd like to just say something as well about that Aberdeen side. That's the last side ever to beat Real Madrid in a European final.
Well, there you go. That just says it all. Like, they've got a really good European history. So teams like that, for example, it's really exciting to see them back on the European stage. And I quite like that. I quite like when these kind of not the biggest clubs in the world, but they have their chance to represent themselves in Europe and go around Europe and play these different teams. So no, I am a fan of it. I do like watching the Europa League and the Conference League, and it's I'm really excited to watch it tonight, to see how the results go, and we'll talk about it more next week on the podcast. So for the final part of the show, Pearse will now give his Asian football roundup.
Yeah, so we'll start with some Korean First Division action. So on Saturday, 16th of September, we had Incheon United 2, Jeju United 1, Jeonbuk Hyundai Motors 1, Gangwon FC 3, Pohang Steelers 2, Suwon FC 0, Ulsan Hyundai 1, Daejeon Hana Citizen 1. And then on Sunday, the 17th of September, with FC Seoul 0, Gwangju FC 1, Suwon Samsung Blue Wings 0, and Daegu FC 1. With Gwangju's victory on Sunday, that has now set a record points total in a single season in the K-League 1 for Gwangju FC, because the fact is they're only formed in 2012 and they've only been newly promoted, and whenever they've been promoted in the past, they've always kind of been up and down. But to get into third position this season and by quite a comfortable margin, I think there's been a breath of fresh air in the K-League 1. So in terms of the standings, this is how it looks. So at the top of the table, we've got Ulsan Hyundai in first position on 62 points. Every team's played 30 matches now. So Pohang Steelers is second on 56, and Pohang Steelers is just confidently in quite just kind of plodding along with their work and just kind of narrowing that gap ever so slightly on Ulsan Hyundai. And as we touched on, Gwangju FC third position in 48, and having a remarkable season back in the first division. In terms of the bottom of the table, had a monumental victory for Gangwon FC, who were rock bottom of the division for quite a while. They defeated Jeonbuk Hyundai Motors, who were thought record champions of the K-League. So that takes them off the foot of the table on 24 points. So we've got Suwon Samsung Blue Wings in 12 on 22 points. And then the Suwon counterparts, Suwon FC, in 10th position on 29 points. So it's really tight down the bottom and at the top, and it's exciting because there's only a few matches left to play, and it's going to be interesting to say the least. So moving on to the Japanese First Division, so J League 1. So it's starting on Friday, the 15th of September, with Kawasaki Frontale 1, FC Tokyo 0, Urawa Red Diamonds 0, Kyoto Sanga FC 0, Yokohama F Mariners 1, Sagan Tosu 1, and then Saturday the 16th of September with Kashima Antlers 1, Cerezo Osaka 0, Avispa Fukuoka 1, Nagoya Grampus 0, Hokkaido Consadole Sapporo 0, Shonan Bellmare 1, Sanfrecce Hiroshima 2, Vissel Kobe 0, and then to round things off, on Sunday the 17th of September, the two fixtures, Yokohama FC 1, Kawashima Reysol 2, Gambo Osaka 1, and Albrechts Niigata 1. So we had a debut in the J League at the weekend. It wasn't a great debut for Wanmato Vissel Kobe as they lost away to Sanfrecce Hiroshima, but it's great to see a player of that calibre grace the fields of the Japanese First Division. So the top of the table, Vissel Kobe remain top only by a point ahead of Yokohama F Marinos. So they've got 52 points, Yokohama F Marinos 51, and then we've got all the way down to 7th, 3rd to 7th. We've got Kawashima Antlers on 46, Urawa Red Diamonds on 46. We've got Nagoya Grampus in 5th position on 46 points as well. And then Cerezo Osaka in 6th position on 45 points. And then 7th position Sanfrecce Hiroshima on 44. So as you can see, we've got 5 sides separated by 2 points and 3 sides on exactly the same points, only separated by goal difference. So in terms of Asian Champions League positions, it's going to be really exciting, and they've still got 6 or 7 games left in the division, so, and even then they've still got an outside chance of the title, because Yokohama F Marinos and Vissel Kobe in recent weeks, the last month or so, they've kind of dropped off. They've barely picked up any victories, having been so consistent throughout the campaign up to date. But at the bottom, it's just as tight as well. So in 18th position, Shonan Bellmare on 21 points, Yokohama FC on 22, and in 16th position, we've got Kashima Reysol on 26. So in terms of other Asian football news, we've got the return of the ACL, which is the Asian Champions League. So that kicked off on Monday with the start of the group stages. So on Tuesday, we had Ulsan Hyundai 3, BG Pathum United 1, Thai side, Yokohama F Marinos 2, Incheon United 4, Johor Darul Tazim 0, Kawasaki Frontale 1. And then on Wednesday, the 20th of September, we had Jeonbuk Hyundai Motors against Kitchi of Hong Kong. And we had Hanoi versus Pohang Steelers as well. And then we had also Wuhan Three Towns versus Urawa Red Diamonds. And we had Melbourne City versus Vent Foret Kofu of the J League 2. And they managed to get the first point of the ACL. And this is a maiden campaign in this competition. So it's great to see, aside from the Japanese second division, compete in European, in Asian, kind of equivalent to the Champions League. So the current holders, Urawa Red Diamonds of the J League 1, will start their defence of the ACL crown away to CCL side Wuhan Three Towns. They'll be looking for back-to-back titles, and number 4 is on the lips of their supporters. So K-League 1 is considering expanding the number of players on the substitute list to 9 instead of 7 next season. But some clubs are opposed to this on the grounds that it would increase the cost of away games. And Football Manager has announced an agreement with the J League to become a licensed league in Football Manager 2024. The game is due out on the 6th of November 2023. This will no doubt excite fans, not just of Asian or Japanese football, but the world over, as Football Manager 2024 is now giving you the chance to manage one of 60 teams across the top 3 divisions of Japanese football. And that's all your latest Asian football news.
Thank you, Pearse. And thank you everyone for listening to this episode of the Football Chuggu Podcast. This podcast will be available to listen to on the Football Chuggu YouTube channel and also the Football Chuggu website. Thanks for listening and see you soon.
Bye-bye.